featuring Bill Gavin and Master Tess Fassian.
And a squad of big-name contributors.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
Hello, this is the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi on the talkSPORT YouTube channel and the S Word YouTube channel. Thank you very much for your company. I'm Ollie Klink, and I've been looking forward to this. I'm alongside Mr. USA are going further than England at the World Cup. USA are going to win the World Cup. Yeah, go on, USMNT, USA, USA. Master Tess Fatsian is alongside me. How are you doing, mate? You still upset? You still hurting? You all right?
Nah. The sun rose. I am enjoying the World Cup. I am doing perfectly fine, Ollie. How you doing ahead of England, Norway?
Yeah, really good. I know you've been practicing your rowing. We'll get into that in just a moment. But we have got
I might be practicing my Norwegian too.
We've got a packed show coming up for you. France have made it through. Of course they have. They got the job done against Morocco. But did the Moroccos really turn up? Could they have caused them a few more problems? Are there any weaknesses in this mighty French side? And stutter penalties. Please, can we stop them? Please. I will do anything to stop these ridiculous penalties. We're going to get into that. We'll also go back over some of the more controversial refereeing decisions. These decisions have made the S Word explode over the last week or so, especially Argentina against Egypt. So, expert ref. We need a ref. Christina Unkel is going to come and join us to take a look back on that. All of that, plus, should the Angel of the North, Big Dan Burn, start for England against Norway to deal with Erling Haaland, who's joining France in the semi-finals, and what a special guest later on, the former Spurs fullback and Frenchman Pascal Chimbonda will be with us to talk about France and Tottenham too. Here we go. This is the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi. Master, firstly, what a shirt you've got on there. Talk me through it.
Come on, New York Cosmos, baby. Pele. This is American soccer history right here. This is one of the turning points in American history with the sport. Had to support and show love to the GOAT, the legend, who came to America, took a chance, and helped grow the sport. And it's helped where it's at today. So,
beautiful.
Shout out to the GOAT. Rest in peace to the legend, Pele.
I'm just amazed it's not a Norway shirt. I am amazed it's not a Norway shirt.
I've been trying to find a Norway shirt. I have for the life of me. I have been searching ever since this England-Norway matchup came about, and I kid you not, I have been trying. I have so many great sleeper mom and pop shops here in America. Shout out to all the great stores here who've been supplying kids all across this beautiful country. I have my spots, and not only that, I have like direct contacts with some of these mom and pop spots. This entire country is sold out of Norway kits. I cannot find a Norway kit to save my life. In fact, Europe is sold out too. I think Nike completely underestimated the support that Norway would get.
Do you know what? It's one of the nicest shirts
Erling Haaland,
as well. It's one of the nicest.
It is
shirts.
one of the nicest. It is a beautiful kit. It is a beautiful kit without question. But also, America has fallen in love with Erling Haaland. Whether it's the personality, whether it's the goals, obviously his YouTube content has been killing it right now throughout this World Cup. It's been great to see behind the scenes, and his personality has been on display on social media. There hasn't been a superstar or an athlete in this World Cup, with all due respect to Tim Payne and Vozinha and all the others that have gone viral for their moments. But I think Erling Haaland is probably the biggest winner in terms of growing in the American audience, and deservedly so.
That's
He's
interesting.
been a joy to watch.
That's interesting. I tell you what as well, you'll love this. On talkSPORT today, and maybe we can find a clip of it and play it a bit later.
Yeah, boy.
Have you seen this girl? She kind of does hair content and makeup content on Instagram. Brilliant page, and has loads of followers and loads of people interested in how to do it, their hair, etc. She could be Haaland's sister. Honestly, she looks almost exactly like him.
No way.
And talkSPORT have had her on today, and Erling Haaland commented on one of her posts and said, "Hi, how are you?" Got about 2 million likes, and honestly, it's brilliant. She's taken it so well, it's really good fun. But she's been on talkSPORT today, so hopefully we can play a bit of that. But we've got to get into the football, haven't we? Because France became the first team through to the semi-finals, beating Morocco in Boston. Here's how it sounded on talkSPORT.
Today, the prize is a place in the semi-finals of the World Cup. Kylian Mbappe is there. Couple of step overs. Hacked down by Masraoui. Penalty. That is a penalty to France, clear as day.
Dazzling feet and his explosive power.
Started run at right-footed, saved! Bono does it again!
A dreadful penalty kick from, arguably the best player in the world, but it just shows you the stuttered run-up. You can't generate enough power.
Here's Kylian Mbappe! Oh yes! Oh yes! Oh yes! 2-2 good, and France lead Morocco by a goal to nil.
He's come up with a goal when they needed it, and he's come up with an absolutely super goal.
Dembele charging on and finding the net. It's beyond Bono. It's 2 for France, and that is it. The favourites have delivered. France are into the World Cup semi-finals. Can anybody at this World Cup stop France? France 2, Morocco 0.
Yeah, pretty comfortable for the French in the end then. And that's the question I've got for you, Master. Can anyone stop this France side from what you saw last night?
I don't think so, man. I really don't. I went into this tournament thinking that they were on shaky ground, and the amount of midfielders they brought in, whether this back line could hold up, and all of that has been for naught because their attackers are just so great that they're going to dominate possession. They're going to dominate the game, and that has been the story of this tournament so far. And it all starts with Kylian Mbappe. And Ale, I say this with complete honesty. We are currently witnessing the greatest World Cup player of all time. In terms of what he has been able to accomplish so far throughout 3 World Cups, there's only been 9 players to score 8 or more goals in a World Cup, and Mbappe has now done that twice. We thought he was coming in, and regardless of how you feel in on terms of club and domestic play, what he has or what he hasn't accomplished, when he does throw on that France kit, he becomes a superhuman. His ability to find the back of the net, time in and time out, he is dangerous on the ball, and his unselfishness, what we're seeing from this World Cup, has truly been, for me, surprising and a joy to watch, because not only did he score that unbelievable, remarkable goal to open up the game as Morocco is playing with the low block, but that second goal that Dembele scores, it is all on Mbappe's unselfishness of passing it to Dembele, making the run, drawing all the defenders, and creating the space for Dembele to find the right side of the net and making it 2-0. Like the way Mbappe is playing right now, in 2018, he bursted onto the scenes, but this was a team, obviously, where Paul Pogba, Antoine Griezmann, and N'Golo Kante, just an unbelievable midfield, and Mbappe was playing a part in that. In 2022, he carried this team literally on the doorsteps of going back-to-back and losing in penalties to Argentina. And once again here, despite what we thought about this midfield, despite what we thought about this back line, Kylian Mbappe is once again carrying this France team to becoming, without question, the favorites of this World Cup. And I think we would all believe at this point, considering the teams that are available, that no one would be surprised if France ends up winning this thing.
It's honestly like he's finding it too easy. Seriously, and that's with his body language and just how dangerous he looks every time he comes forward. But I think you make a really good point, is when he isn't scoring, they will hit you from elsewhere, and he's always a key part of an attack or the start of a move. And that is why France are just so ridiculously dangerous. And you talk about the impact of Dembele there, who currently holds the Ballon d'Or, and how good Michael Olise has been at this tournament. I honestly, at the moment, I fear them so much. I fear them so much as an England fan. I've got to ask, though, if Spain managed to get past Belgium, and it's a game we'll look ahead to a bit later in the show, how do you look at that matchup? I think that's such an interesting game, especially when you think about the fact that so far, and okay, you could maybe look at it and go, they haven't played the most difficult opponents. So they did well to get past Portugal, to be fair. That's a decent game, however Portugal had been playing at the tournament. How would you look at that game between Spain and France?
I need to see more from the Spain side. And I think that starts today against Belgium, because they have not lived up to their full potential. And I know going into it, they had injuries, particularly on the wings with Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams, who looks like he could be available for this match. I doubt he starts, though. But across the board, I feel like everyone has been incredibly underwhelming for Spain. And we keep waiting for them to turn it up to the level that we saw in the Euros and the levels that we know that they can perform to, as many people were thinking this was the most talented team going into this World Cup. That is yet to be the case. Even in that Portugal game, I don't think we saw the best of Spain. I don't think the best we've seen from Spain is against Saudi Arabia, with all due respect, and Austria. Again, with all due respect, I don't think we've seen them rise to the level of the competition that maybe should suggest of a Spanish team to do. Again, this Belgium side, we'll see how they perform. I expect them to advance, but the way France is playing right now, I can't see a world in which Spain beats them. Obviously, who knows? Again, if Lamine Yamal turns up today, he played 90 minutes. He seems like he's fit again. This is right before a game in which Lamine Yamal reminds the world who he is right before he turns 19 years old, which he will on Sunday, I believe it is, or excuse me, on Monday. If we see that level of Lamine Yamal, we know what kind of game changer he can be, and that can create a lot of problems again for this France back line that I still have my questions for, but in a France-Spain game, not to get too ahead of ourselves, I still would expect France to dominate possession and dictate the game in their terms.
Yeah, I think that injury to Yamal heading into the tournament has had much more of an impact than maybe we could have even predicted. But if he does,
Nico Williams,
and Nico Williams.
They have not been able to find a consistent left winger in this tournament. Alex Baena, give him credit, the last 2 games, he's performed much better, and I'll give him credit for that. But what made Spain special was Nico and Lamine on the wings just running wild and terrorizing opponents and fullbacks, especially those attacking fullbacks that tend to get out of position. Those guys will kill you on the counter, and we have yet to see that from Spain and the same capabilities.
Haven't conceded a goal yet, to be fair. Just going back to the France-Morocco game.
Their backline's been great. Kudos. Their backline has been Cucurella has been great. Laporte has been great. Petro Porro has been outstanding the last couple of matches since he's been starting. All credit to the backline. Unai Simon, of course, the scoreless streak that he's been having so far. Their backline's been great. Yeah. It just they need to do better offensively. Yeah,
no, definitely. Just going back to that France-Morocco game, what did you think about Morocco and their approach? Because I think when you look at the way they took on Brazil and the way they took on the Netherlands, they brought the game to those two sides. Do you think they potentially, and it's difficult not to, but did they show France a bit too much respect?
Yes, they did, but you have to consider the depth of this team, and they lost Ezazuli going into this tournament, who was their dynamic attacker that could create just chances as a magician out of nowhere, and he was a key element to their attack and the reason why they were able to play on the front foot. But then you also lose Saibari as well, and his absence, to me, that stretched him a bit too thin. And They have a lot of young talent, particularly coming off the bench, but the simple fact that they just do not have a quality striker up top, it makes it very, very challenging to continue playing that style of play, particularly against France. So I kind of felt going in, despite the fact that, again, Morocco has displayed incredible courage throughout this entire tournament, it was just going to be incredibly difficult playing that style of play without Saibari in the starting 11, and it proved to be that way. It was unfortunate, but I think Paraguay had showed a certain style that could maybe, could annoy and agitate this French side, even though they came up after the match saying we can play dirty too. But I feel like you're going to have to be a bit aggressive with them, and whatever you may think of the Paraguayan style of play, they really did muddy up the game and made it difficult for them. And we saw Morocco, doing the same, playing a very AFCON kind of type of game where sitting back in a low block, slowing down the pace of the game, taking a 19-minute halftime break, coming out late of the locker rooms, doing everything they could to try and slow down this French side. And for a bit there, it was working, up until, of course, Mbappe proved who he is, who's the best player in the world right now and the best player of this tournament. So again, it is unfortunate that we didn't get to see the best of Morocco in this tournament, that attacking style of play that we've been able to enjoy as of late. But I think that is a story to be told truly about all the African sides as they continue to evolve and develop. Is the depth is going to be the biggest thing, because as you continue to go in this tournament, this expanded tournament, Morocco, simply put, does not have the same depth that France does.
Yeah. We're going to explore that a little bit later on too. Right, we need to talk about the penalty. All academic in the end, but Mbappe,
what's up with the penalty? What part of the penalty do you want to talk about? Because do you want to talk about the VAR decision that took 3 minutes and 11 seconds? Because that seemed a bit ridiculous. Where do you want to go?
Ridiculous. And tell you what, we're going to talk to Christina Unkel about that a little bit later on. But I agree with you, that is a long time to wait and too long to wait. And I felt a bit for Mbappe in that situation, because it just seemed so stupid. You know, he's there literally turning to the ref like, come on, can I just take this now? Anyway.
He had to reset the ball twice.
Yeah, I know.
Reset the ball twice.
I know, nonsense. But he stutters in the run-up. And we've already seen at this tournament that technique isn't working in the same way that it used to. Stop taking stutter penalties. It doesn't work. 57% of stutter penalties at this tournament have been scored, which means it's almost half of them have been missed. Stop stuttering in your run-up. It doesn't work anymore. The goalkeepers are more aware of it now. I just, and actually, if you look at the record of penalties that have been taken without a stutter, it's 68% have been scored. There's literally statistical evidence now that stuttering in your penalty doesn't work. We've seen Messi do it. We've seen Mbappe do it. Kane did it. He got to retake his, luckily. But I'm just sick of it, Master. Just run up and hit the ball, please. Or take a Panenka, whatever it is. Stop stuttering in the run-up, please.
You know what this is gearing up for, right, Ollie? When England finds themselves in penalties and you're sitting there watching everyone just stutter up like a nice little slow choo-choo train just coming up and, stop and go, and you're just going to be there on pins and needles. I hope that happens against Norway.
In fact, Norwegian players, go for it. Stutter on every
They go for it. You're not going to see a stutter step from any of those Norwegians. And it's gonna know you even more as you're just on pins and needles, being so pessimistic, thinking about the worst but hoping for the best as each one of your English players. And God forbid there's a center back thrown in there somewhere as well, because center backs for some reason are getting all these penalty opportunities.
Yeah, didn't Gabriel take one in the Champions League final?
Yeah.
Did he?
He's an absolute disgrace.
He did. You know who else took one in the World Cup? Bruno Guimaraes.
Do you know what, Master? It's a really good point. As a Newcastle fan, when I see all of that attacking talent that Brazil have, you had Cunha on, you had Vinicius on, and Bruno's stepping up, and I'm as soon as he steps up, look, to be fair, he scored a lot of penalties for Newcastle this season, but he always makes me nervous as a penalty taker, always. Not necessarily because of a stuttering run-up, which he did, but he has a very slow run-up. He's had quite a few saves. He's missed in shootouts for Newcastle. I couldn't believe he was taking one from Brazil, and I wasn't surprised.
I don't think he could believe either. The way he was breathing before he was about to take that penalty, he looked more nervous than me and you did. So I was a big shock by that. Maybe that's why Arsenal's interested in him now. I don't know.
Yeah, potentially need another player to miss penalties in the Champions League final. What are your thoughts though on the stutter penalty? So are you still a backer of them? Do you care?
I've never been that big of a fan of the stuttered penalty, but it's one of those things like I compare it to like NBA free throws. Whatever you're comfortable with, go up there and do. I'm not the one at the spot in that intense and pressure situation, dealing with that reality where it's just you against the goalkeeper and mentally having to find the composure of figuring out all the different things, what kind of run-up you're going to do. How am I going to slot this? Am I going left, right? Am I going in the middle? Am I going top bins? Like all of these things that goes into a penalty taker's mind. I have never been in that situation. So for me to sit there and say, this is how someone should do it, this is how someone should do it, it's, again, personally for me, it is not the most aesthetically pleasing way to do a penalty. But I've seen other people like Bruno Fernandes, who's had a ton of success with that stutter step penalty. It just depends on the player's comfortability. For Mbappe there, I think, truth be told, I don't think anyone would say he's a bad penalty taker. And that was a bad penalty take, don't get me wrong. But you could tell, even post-match, the comments that he made about having to wait 3 minutes, 11 seconds to take that penalty, to the point where even Erling Haaland came out on Snapchat and said that this wait is way too long, that Kylian Mbappe is having to deal with VAR, having to reset the ball twice. I can only imagine mentally as well what that does to his psyche in terms of trying to prepare for this and everything that's running through your mind as the official is telling you it was a penalty, but maybe it may not be considering what they're checking through right now.
But the thing is, I do agree that it was a long wait, but wait or not, he doesn't have to stutter in the run-up. And like I've pointed out, statistically, you've got a better chance of scoring if you don't do it. At this World Cup, at least.
Do you think Mbappe's a bad penalty taker?
Yeah, he is. He's stuttering, mate.
Oh, based off that one stutter, that's going to change your whole perception.
Messi is a bad penalty taker. Messi is a bad penalty taker.
He's missed half his penalties in the World Cup. But I will say this. The one time he looked good taking penalties was in 2022, and he was doing the stutter step penalty take. Like that. Again, it's... it depends on the person. Again, it's not the most aesthetically pleasing. I completely understand that. But I do understand the logic behind it, where you do have an advantage of being able to force the goalkeeper to make the first move and being able to slot it in and just literally roll it in and pass it into the nets.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? I think as a fan, if a player stutters in a run-up, I find it unbelievably frustrating. If a player does a Panenka and it doesn't come off, I find it unbelievably frustrating. If they run up and hit it as hard as they can, even if they miss the target, I have a respect for it. Because that's what.
So where's your respect for Gabriel?
Oh, mate, I love him. Brilliant. That's the best penalty I've ever seen. Has it landed yet? I don't think it has it?
I think it just landed in my backyard.
I'll do a round of applause for Gabriel. Best penalty I've ever seen. But maybe it's growing up as a Newcastle fan and loving Alan Shearer and the way that he used to take them. Could be that. But do you know what it is? I just find it annoying. I find stuttering really annoying.
It is. I find it annoying. I find it annoying too. But again, statistically, it doesn't show that it's working in this World Cup, but for certain people, it does work. And if that's what they're comfortable with, by all means. It's a great conversation to have moving forward, because maybe goalkeepers have caught up to this. As we saw Bonu doing some incredible, brilliant penalty-saving tactics in this World Cup, where he didn't even dive. He just waited and anticipated the movement and just shuffled his feet like a hockey goalkeeper in many ways, just shuffling towards a certain side of the net. You know, if that's the strategy the goalkeepers are taking and they just kind of caught up to it, then yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe it's time to, if everyone's zigging, maybe it's time to zag and just go up there and bang in the back of the net like Erling Haaland or Victor Gyökeres.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about how goalkeeping has improved, which again speaks to that argument, doesn't it, of get it out there, reach, slap it in there. Come on. This is the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi. So much to come for you on the show. We're going to get into all of those refereeing decisions, including that delay for Mbappe's penalty and everything that happened in Argentina against Egypt. We might not have time to fit all of that in. But in just a moment, what a special guest we have on the way. The former Spurs defender Pascal Chimbonda is going to join us. Stay with us.
Big name reaction from both sides of the pond.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
talkSPORT presents
The S Word.
high energy exchanges, fiery fan reactions, and the biggest football debate.
The S Word.
From talkSPORT.
Hello, welcome back to the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi on the talkSPORT. See, if you stutter anything, it's rubbish. All right?
Hey, listen, the only stutter I like is Ruben's stutter. That one song, yeah, that's about it.
I'm Ollie Klink alongside Master Test Faxons, who's live from LA. We're getting stuck into the quarterfinals. France have made it through. They've beaten Morocco by 2-0. Mbappe had that penalty saved. It was a long wait, to be fair to him. Joining us now to look back on that, what a special guest we've got. The former Spurs defender, former Wigan defender, former France defender, Pascal Chimbonda joined us. How you doing, Pascal?
I'm cool, fine. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good,
Hey,
thank
man.
you. Really
Hey,
good.
he's chilling right now. He's laid back. He's living life right now. The way France is playing, I let the blow over here.
I'm over the moon. I'm over the moon. Over the moon.
Yeah, that is a man who knows his team's going to go on to win the World Cup, isn't it? It's fantastic.
We close.
Yeah, I mean, what did you make of the performance last night, Pascal? Eventually, they got the job done, and it was pretty comfortable, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think since the tournament start, we've been really good, and we showed it last night against Morocco that I think no team can stop us when we're in a good form like this.
And we've got to talk about Kylian Mbappe, of course, 8 goals now at the World Cup. But he missed that penalty. We'll come on to that. But the form he's shown, I mean, this man, he just turns up at the World Cup, doesn't he?
Yeah, no, I think it's his favorite tournament, when we see 4 years back, when he's on a final against Argentina, how he performed. And this tournament again, he do the same, he repeat the same. And I think the hunger he have to win that, to bring him back to France, I think everyone can see it on the pitch.
There were some concerns going into it because the sentiment, obviously, from the French people and even those that watched them play domestic football was, are we going to see that same Mbappe that we saw in 2022 and 2018? And kudos to him. I mean, even the assist that he had with Dembele, we're seeing almost Mbappe to another level beyond the goal scoring, the leadership, the unselfishness that I think has been truly refreshing to see.
But I think when you see the tournament, I think he need his teammate, and his teammates see Mbappe need them as well to perform. So I think when you see Mbappe chasing defender, pressing, that's another Mbappe in other level, So when he's perform like this, when he play like this, and I think everyone want France to win the tournament.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Why are we seeing that now? The unselfishness, the chasing defenders, the pressing, doing all the dirty work, that we've seen, other managers call him out for and wanting to see that. But we're seeing it all on display right now where he's becoming this complete player.
Yeah, because, when you get Ousmane Dembele, you get Olise, you get Doué or Bakola, and you get all the big name in your team, you want to be at the same level that them and do everything to help the team, and the team do everything to help you as well. So it's only that way football you can win the game. If you can't win the game on your own, you need all your teammates to do that. So he understands that, and I think this is good for us and good for him as well.
Yeah, he must be having so much fun as well, playing with that front four or whoever comes on for them during the game too. Of course, there's the impact of the manager too. In fact, French football journalist Julien Laurent joined the talkSPORT breakfast show this morning and had this to say about Didier Deschamps.
Obviously, this is his last tournament, so everything can stop now. I mean, now he's got a few more days until Tuesday and the semi-final in Dallas against Spain or Belgium, but he could have stopped tonight for us here in the US. He just had a few more days now, but he knows that very soon he's going to finish. 14 years is a very long time to be the coach of the same club or same national team in his case. It's a very long time. He took over when we were at the bottom of the bottom, remember 2010 and 2012, and he made us great again, to be fair. And I think the business side of him, and Sean is absolutely right, one, he never really showed his emotions anyway, but secondly, I think he's in this moment where he knows everything can stop so quickly, he's very much focused.
It's amazing, isn't it? We talk about Mbappe turning up for World Cups, but Deschamps won it as a player back in 1998, obviously won it for France back in 2018, reached the final in 2022, could win it again and become just the second manager to win it twice. Pascal, do you feel he gets the credit he deserves?
I think, yes, he get the credit he deserves, He been there before, he been there in the 98, he been there and when France win it the second time. He win it as a player, he win it as a manager, and he gonna to maybe win it a second time as a manager and leave this legacy like this. And I think to someone after to get the job, and I think it's gonna to be hard to succeed after Deschamps, but at the minute, what he do for France and what he been doing for France for so long, and I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's going to be big shoes to fill, but obviously it seems like it's maybe going to be Zidane that fills those shoes. So maybe someone that I think he has big enough feet to fill those shoes.
Yeah.
But when we see the beautiful part about this, and credit to Deschamps and credit to the team as well, after Dembele scores that goal, he runs to the bench and everyone's celebrating together. The unity of this team. I'm not French. You are. You played for the French national team. When you see that level of unity and that pride and seeing them representing that shirt that you're wearing right now, how does that make you feel?
I think when you play this big tournament, unity is important, and celebrate with the teammate is important. So I think when you're winning and celebrate with the manager, I think it's not something you never see like before. And he done it, and they did it. And I think when you see this cohesion in the team, I think something is really important and really good, And I think it's for the future and to go to the end, we need that confidence.
Pascal,
but what does that make you feel? The joy as a Frenchman. What does that do for you when that's your team? That's not. I'm American. That's not my team. But when I see that, I can only imagine what does that do for you personally?
That do brilliant for me. When I watch every game, and that feeling, to support the team. I'm really glad. Like I'm French, and I'm really glad I'm support that team because the talent we had in this team is something unbelievable. And maybe we won't see this ever again, but thank you. They give me the pleasure in front of my TV and to celebrate with them, and I'm happy.
Pascal, my team is still in, unlike Masters. I'm an England fan.
I need time's coming, buddy.
Well, I need you to give me a bit of hope if you can, Pascal. Is there any element of this French team where there is a bit of a weakness that does worry you at all?
The weakness is maybe if we've been too confident, If we take everything too easy, that's only the worry I have. But when you see all the line, the midfielder, the defender, the keeper, front forward, when you see the bench, I don't think I need to worry about anything. It's only the worry is about ourselves, how we get the game, how we appear on the game, and how we play, Nothing is, like I said, nothing is easy in football, but with this team, I don't think anything can hurt us at the minute.
Which out of the teams left in this tournament would you fear the most in terms of France playing them?
I think I may feel fear about the English team, Not the Spanish one, but more English team,
Why is that?
Because with England, you never know. Anything can happen with England. They can be bad and play. They can be bad one day and play good the next game. You never know. Like England can surprise you and you say, "Wow, England can do this," or So that's only my fear. But I think the other team, when you see on the paper, I don't think Spain can hurt us because I think we're stronger than them and that's it, I think England can worry France more than the other team.
Don't worry, they'll be in a penalty situation at some point, and like in 2022, Harry Kane was skied over the bar. You'll be okay. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. C'est la vie. C'est la vie.
Yeah.
Pascal, talking of penalty.
Real quick though.
Yeah, go on.
I want to ask one question because going back to this French side, the one spot I thought what could be a potential weakness was the depth in the midfield. And with the injury to Tchouaméni, I was concerned. But Manu Kone, what a performance, what a shift he put in. Can you tell me more about how impressive he has been and kind of the unsung hero in that performance against Morocco?
I think it's been, if people maybe doesn't know him, He played for Roma, and every time I see him playing, and it is so easy on the ball, on the pitch. He walk over with so much ground to get the ball back. He go forward to help the attacker. Is unbelievable. And I think in the middle we really strong. Because look, Kante is never even play 1 minute. And we put Zaire Emery on the pitch yesterday. He played, I think, good 20 good minutes. Rabiot is unbelievable. So I think, yes, we in the middle, we get people in the middle. We don't need to worry about anything in the middle. We get people to support the front four. That's good.
Yeah, until you face Rice, Anderson and Bellingham, mate. But Pascal, I've got to ask you about the penalty for Mbappe too, and this stutter run up. We've seen it a lot at the World Cup so far. What are your thoughts on it?
I think the referee take too much time to blow the whistle to take the penalty. It's in total. If you see, it's take like 5 minutes to take the penalty, and Mbappe say, I think in the beginning they say yes penalty, and after the referee say maybe it's not penalty. And I think all this play in his head, but a big player look like Messi, he miss a penalty against Egypt, and he scored during the game. So yeah, big player always show up when they need him.
Got to ask you about Tottenham too. As a former Spurs player, they are splashing the cash. They've signed Sandro Tonali for around 100 million, Mateus Fernandes for 85 million, Jan-Paul Van Hecke. It's been a tough couple of seasons for them, but they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you see that 2 seasons we finished like nearly at the bottom of the league. So now the people, they want to see Spurs back where they belong, like top 4 or top 2, and I think it would be really good for the fan. But I think we need couple more signing, because I think we need a striker. I mean, we need to fill that gap, because I don't think we get so many midfielder, we get so many defender, but we need a goal scorer. Someone can put the ball back in the net and make us win game. So I think if they do this, I think people will have to count on Spurs this season.
Yeah, but Pascal, is it smart signing? Is it smart spending, or are they overpaying? Like, are they just blowing cash in the situation? Because the market's kind of been a bit inflated as a result of what Spurs has done. Is this good business?
Yeah, it's good business. When you see the players they get, I think they're doing good. They get Robertson for free. They get Tonali for 100 million. They get Fernandes for 80. Yes, I think the business, since Neymar brought that record 222 million to go to PSG when he was at Barcelona, I think now everyone can spend big money. If you want the player, you have to go get it and pay the money. So that's football now. So if Spurs want to improve on the team and compete with the other team in the league, they have to start to splash money. Yeah, that's you do if you want to win stuff.
Pascal, just before we let you go, at Spurs you would have played with talkSPORT's Jamie O'Hara. I was just wondering what your memories are of Jamie as a person and as a player.
I don't think me and Jamie we play so many games together, so I don't have a lot to remember about him. But that's it, what I mean? Because I remember one day I was watching when he was one interview of him. They would say what player he was in that team when we win the Carling Cup, I think, against Chelsea, and he forget I was in the team. So yeah, I say he forget I play for Spurs. So yes, so that I say I don't remember much about Jimmy playing with me. What I mean? So.
He'd have been on the bench, Pascal. That's the problem.
I don't know. Maybe on the bench or maybe with the reserve. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it's been brilliant to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And good luck to France the rest of the way. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great stuff. What a brilliant guest.
You should have saw the
Pascal
grin on
Chimbonda.
your face when he said England is the biggest fear that he had. You were just sitting there like a kid at Christmas, just like hang the banner up. Most feared French team by France is England.
You could tell he wasn't actually that nervous about playing England.
No, he was not nervous. No. Sometimes they play good, sometimes they play bad. Is the way he said it. And we'll see what England. First, you got to get through Norway.
Yeah, I was going to say they'll be playing Norway in the final anyway, won't they? So. We'll have to see, won't we? Anyway, Pascal Chimbonda, their former Spurs defender, feeling very confident about France, and why not? Right, in just a moment, I am looking forward to this. We're going to be joined by expert ref Christina Unkel to look back over a mad week of refereeing decisions. So much to get into. She's coming next here on the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi.
Is coming out. From the touchline to the terraces,
talkSPORT presents
the S Word. talkSPORT presents
the S Word.
Listen again and subscribe
wherever you get your podcasts
and on the talkSPORT USA YouTube channel.
Hello, welcome back to the S Word on the talkSPORT YouTube channel and the S Word YouTube channel. I'm Ollie Klink, fan of England, the most feared team by France, alongside Master Desmasian, live from
You
Los
didn't stutter that
Angeles.
time when you said that.
Fly that flag, baby, please. Right, it's time for one of our favourite guests on this show. Of course, it's clear and obvious, and it's Christina Unkel.
After review, clear and obvious with Christina Unkel on the S Word.
The number 20 United States Committee seals foul. Red card. Wow.
Oh, it's brilliant. Christina, how are you?
I just noticed Ollie getting into it. He's like, let's do this.
You can't not mop along to that, honestly. It's fantastic.
We got a lot to get into, too.
Every DJ's got to be sampling that announcement. It's absolutely fantastic. Look, Christina, we have got so much to get into. We'll start with the France-Morocco game. It's something we've referenced a couple of times already in the show. That wait that Mbappe had to take the penalty. What were your thoughts on it? Because it was about 3.5 minutes that he was standing by the spot waiting to take his penalty.
Yeah, it was a little interesting because I was working that game live. So when I'm working a game live, I have a video operator next to me. We don't have all the angles that the FIFA referees do have in VAR, but we have about 5 to 6 different cameras that the World Broadcasting feed gives to us. As soon as the goal is scored, probably talk about it a little bit later, right? The Egypt-Argentina game. We immediately go to the change of possession. So what the VAR is looking for is two different things. How did they gain possession, right? That's the beginning of the attacking phase of play, or a phase of play leading up to that goal. And then secondly, the foul itself. We internally were able to check complete that, meaning we reviewed it, we looked at it, we said it was going to be a good goal in about 30 seconds. So I sat there saying, Keats, what did we miss? So we kept reviewing the angles going back. The way the ball was won first was clean, right? Shoulder to shoulder bump, but it's really the bottom part of the foot. And then the only thing we could grasp that they might be looking at, they would have probably 10 more angles than I would have to be able to look at, was the actual foul on Mbappe. Did he, draw that foul? Did he start to fall before and then drag his right leg into it? But it was more like looking for a needle in the haystack. It's something that if they had overturned it thinking he had drawn his leg in, there would be more conversation about that having been a foul versus not. And I think that's where my concern was we're now going into too scientific in VAR. And I think that's why it took 3 minutes, was to take a look at Mbappe. That was the only thing I could put it on in that phase of play, is what they were looking at. Way too long though. And as we saw, it has the implications of stifling a player at times.
Yeah, Mbappe after the match didn't seem too happy about the wait. We saw Erling Haaland posting on Snapchat that was way too long of a wait. But not only that, the 19-minute delay, I believe it was, coming out of halftime as Morocco were in the locker room. And I felt like this was something that used to be an emphasis of making sure teams came out on time. I don't know if maybe that was a Premier League thing. I don't know if that was been an international thing. But how was that allowed?
It's for a referee, it's an everything thing, right? It doesn't matter whether it's domestic or FIFA. Starting the game on time, getting the game out on time is of the utmost importance. I could tell you from an officiating standpoint, like, that is part of our job. But at a level like this, you have match observers, you have handlers, you have everything. So while they're supposed to be doing a lot of that legwork, you can find yourself with teams who are doing it for more strategic purposes. And all you can do is basically try to rush teams out, encourage them, remind them that there's TV, get out, TV's on, right? That's probably the best use I ever was able to get a team out of a locker room because they wanted their endorsement deals. But there's only so much a referee can do with respect to that, and that's where FIFA has to step in and do suspensions after the fact, or fines after the fact when those situations happen.
I just want to ask you, Christina, about the size of some of these VAR teams too, because you seem to have the actual video assistant referee, then you have the assistant, and it seems like you have the assistant. There's even someone there who's the support VAR. Do you think that adds to VAR being too microscopic? Do they need teams that are that big, with your experience, to actually help with making those decisions?
Yeah, so it's funny. John Chapman and I were laughing yesterday because he's like, how are there now 9 officials managing a game? And to kind of help put a little bit of things into perspective, about 2 days ago was the cut deadline for the referees, right? So you enter into a pool. Obviously, you have 104 games. You have a bigger pool of referees. And as the tournament goes on, that was the first cut, was 2 days ago, where they said, hey, thank you to some, and then they released them, and then they kept others. I honestly just think they were kind of like, all right, let's just add some referees in there to like be secondary and triple, because we have nothing else to do with them and we're paying them anyways to be here. But to kind of help people understand what's happening in the VAR room, you have your head VAR, your video assistant referee, who is the one who is communicating to the referee, who makes the decision whether to send something down. You have your assistant VAR, who is supporting that VAR in the sense of, if I'm looking at, I'm trying to think like Argentina versus Egypt, right? And there's mass confrontations and people are doing things. Your head VAR is probably in the middle looking at all of that stuff, where your assistant VAR is keeping his eye on probably, the beauty cam to see what else is going on. If you look at that clip, you have the head referee dealing with the yellow card and like 5 players. You have your assistant referee dealing with the goalkeeper. You have your fourth official and your first assistant referee dealing with all the mayhem going on the technical. So your assistant referee is kind of keeping a bigger overview. And then that assistant assistant in VAR is helping with offside, right? Any offside situations are usually a trained assistant, or not trained, but obviously an assistant referee who's more trained and more keen to be looking for offside scenarios. Whereas a VAR, the main one, is more of a trained center referee. So we're probably more keen to our eyes being attracted to fouls and whatnot. So that's kind of the different roles in the scope. And then the assistant VAR, they kind of hang out and collect a paycheck.
Yeah, get the snacks.
Must be nice.
Snacks. They're there for the snacks.
So I was at Argentina, Egypt, Christina, and I don't know if you saw the clips, but me and Will had a very heated debate, as I'm sure you've seen all across social media and group chats, and I'm sure conversations that you've had as well, in terms of the decision-making that was made by the officials in that match. And let's start off first with the goal that was scored by Egypt to put them up 2-0 that was called back. First and foremost, was that a foul? And was that warranted enough to be called a foul, to call that play of possession back?
So two things can be true, and I want to start there, okay? One, nobody likes this, including officials. But two, was that a foul that began that phase of play? And the answer is yes, okay? So the reason I wanted to qualify that was the reason why none of us like this, including officials, is obviously it happened in the defensive half. It happened right 10, 18 yards in Argentina's side. But when you look at it, stepping on the foot of the individual, and there's going to be a nuance, right? Because I know we're going to talk about Egypt here. Stepping on the foot of that player is the original incident of what created that transition of play, what created that winning of the possession and the change of possession, right? So when you look at VAR protocols and you look at the attacking phase of play, which is the time period the VAR can look back to after a goal is scored, there is no temporal, regulation. There is no, it's got to be in the attacking half. There is no geography or time. Instead, what they've defined as this attacking phase of play is basically this period leading up to where it's just one continuous advantageous play or attacking play into the half, right? So once that ball converted and changed possession, and you can see that the original main contact, right? People were focusing on the upper body pull of the shirt. That wouldn't have overturned it. It was really the stepping of the foot that caused that fall. That possession changed. You had one more play. Then this is the part we hate. You had that one individual, and I apologize for his name because it's missing me right now, who dribbled about a solid 60 to 70 yards. Sorry, I'm American. I use yards. 60 to 70 yards. And then made that third subsequent pass, which was the ball in the back of the net, right? So there was no disruption in that attacking phase of play. That is included in the attacking phase of play. But it's not lost on people who have football understanding that, Argentina had plenty of time to defend, right? That counterattack was so long in geography that none of us like that is included. So when we talk about the spirit of the game, I think was violated at that point, not because the referees chose to do so, wanted to do so, the VAR wanted to do so, but because their arms were basically handcuffed in doing so based on how the law is written and how application is done.
With that in mind, Christina,
don't like it.
Do you think there should be temporal regulation?
The temporal, honestly, when we were trained in the attacking phase of play and early on, we talked about temporal because I was, part of the FIFA project of figuring out the timing side of it. And it's really hard to do a temporal one, right? It makes more sense, like if we think about yesterday with France and the goal and what they were looking at, one of the goals for France, the first goal I think it was whether there was handling in that offense. And in that kind of first attacking phase of play, it pops up, hits his foot, hits his arm, goes back down. But then the ball goes in. A defender for Morocco has plenty of time without obstruction or, pressure to clear that ball. So they're talking more about, the time that one has the possession and is disrupting it. Like I was explaining it to Mark, like in this, Egypt play, if they had moved the ball up in the second play and that gentleman had dribbled, maybe not dribbled forward, but dribbled laterally or passed the ball back, that's when we say it resets, right? The attacking phase has reset because it's turned into a neutral zone and has gone back negatively. It still works. This is one of those really, really random exceptions. And that's where maybe we can make an exception for something, right? Maybe on a distance versus a time, right? If the attack, the change of possession happens basically in the attacking third at this point, then that's cleaned up. I think it might be more of a geography thing more than a time thing.
So on the flip side, I know you said you felt like that was a foul. I thought that was a very, very minor infraction. that I think could have been ignored in the same way that there was 2 minor infractions on an Argentina goal that Egypt dealt with that were not, I mean, whether VAR obviously looks at it, whether it was properly checked in the same extent that we saw the Egypt goal being called off, but there was 2 instances, obviously, that has created a huge firestorm amongst Egyptian fans and the Federation. Were any of those warranted enough to be taken a look by VAR and going to the monitor?
Yeah, so the challenge on Mo Salah, as soon as it happened and I had gone back to take a look at it with my operator, I'm like, this is going to be an issue. And what I mean by that is because there was a nuance in that play. So if you take a look at the challenge on Mo Salah, which is the change of possession that everyone's saying is exactly the same as what happened to Argentina. And don't get me wrong, I don't fault people when they make this argument. I can understand and I can appreciate it. But like the distinction is the challenge on Mo Salah, the first challenge on him is fair, right? Ball is poked out between his legs, right? And he starts to fall from that one. And then you see the contact on his right foot when he's already falling. So the original tackle is fair. That is the one that has really had created him falling. And then the clip on his foot is probably that secondary action, but he was already falling. And that was the nuance of distinction as to why VAR did not recommend that down for an overturn of a goal because of a foul in the APP leading up to that goal. But like I said, it was such a nuance and a distinction. I knew why the VAR did not send it down, but I'm like, the rest of the football world won't accept it, right? Because it's so slight. But I do want to, I think, Master, you emphasized a great point, and I was talking through this. Yes, I'm a dork. I was talking through this with some referee friends, and I said, instead of a simple foul in the attacking phase of play leading to the goal, maybe we do something more where the height or the threshold of the foul must be something higher than a simple foul, such as something that we call 100% misconduct. For example, coming in, slide tackling, hitting the top of the boot, and the person goes flipping, right? Maybe it's not a red card, but it's a yellow card, but that's what we call the 100% misconduct, right? You cannot balance or manage that misconduct. You must issue a card for that. And that's where I'm thinking maybe instead of it just being any foul leading in the attacking phase of play, it's got to be 100% misconduct. It's got to be that threshold where basically it's a yellow card or a red card. Because then I think people can accept that we are going to take away beautiful goals because there's a foul that's significant enough.
Yeah, that is very interesting. I think that would be the right way to look at it, especially if it is something where, the foul, like you've pointed out, happens in the defensive half, etc. Because I think it's that. The problem with the Egypt goal is it's just such a beautiful goal as well. And when you get that robbed from you, it is so frustrating. Something else I need to ask you about, there's been a lot of talk about decisions going Argentina's way. You can go back to the first game where Messi wasn't sent off. You can look at those decisions for Egypt. And then even you could potentially look at the fact that Jarell Quansah has been given a 2-game ban for his red card. The only player so far at the tournament to get a 2-game ban for the red card that he got against Mexico. Can you just explain why it isn't a single game ban? Because there will be a few people who feel that there is this, Argentine advantage at the moment at this World Cup that will look at it and go, well, hold on, that will leave England short of a right back in a potential semi-final against Argentina.
Yeah, and it's a legitimate discussion to be had for it, right? So just to kind of give people an understanding where 2-game suspensions come from is when they have, for the most part, what we have seen historically in the pattern, right? If you receive a red card in the game, minimum suspension is minimum suspension is 1 game, right? And those 1-game suspensions are mainly for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity, right? Where it is not, the foul itself is not necessarily a reckless it's not necessarily a serious foul play, but it's a technical play. It's taking away a goal scoring opportunity. It's something that's not really necessarily putting another player at danger. So that's why those really kind of sit in the 1-game suspension. What he received was serious foul play. If you guys remember, studs coming in, speed, force, contact over the ball, sweeping in. So I'm not surprised necessarily that they gave 2 games because typically that would be a 2-game suspension. The only reason I am surprised it was 2 games was because we're in tournament play and we're at the end. And kind of FIFA has shown, right, through Article 27, its preference to ensure that key players stay on the field as much as possible. So that is why I was surprised it was a 2-game suspension based on FIFA's pattern of how they've done it. And, this sounds bad, but right, the Qatarian player, right, who elevated to a 5-game suspension when we're all shocked and we're like, that should have been maybe 3-game suspension in total, right? But is it 5 games because, the Canadian player broke his leg? Are we now suspending players on the result versus their action, right? Where the Qatarian player, one would argue his action was typically more of a yellow card, just unfortunately it rose to a red card because there was a broken leg, whereas in the Mexican player, got up and was able to play. So if you're on this disciplinary committee, those are what we call mitigating factors that you should be taking a look at to say tournament play happens every 4 years, right? Yes, it was a red card. Yes, it was dealt with appropriately. The player left without any issue. 1 game suspension should be enough instead of a 2-game suspension. Or the Qatarian 5-3. I love that. What was that?
That's Sam on the board. That's Sam on the board, by the way. So he's having some fun with it. They wanted overturned, but it was clearly reckless. It was clearly
Yeah. I mean, I was joking. I was like, go call Article 27, right? I think it's the Prime Minister's, we in America, they have these you can call and get a grave.
What's happened with us is Keir Starmer's called up and asked to take the ban away for 1 game, and he's ended up with 2 games. I think that's basically what's happened for us. Christina, it's been an absolute pleasure. Could listen to you speak about this all day, and thank you so much for joining us.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
There we go, Christina Unkel. Has that cleared things up for you, Mustard? Because I feel like with your arguments with Will, it was interesting because when you were talking to Christina about the foul on Martinez, you said it was a minor infraction, but with Will, you were saying it wasn't a foul. So were you backing up a bit there?
No, I'm not. I still don't think it was warranted enough to call it a foul. Again, there's been other officials who have came out, despite there being contact with the boot, that is not warranted enough just because there is for it to be a foul.
Yeah, fair enough.
That's the way I felt about it. Yeah, and again, my point was, the whole point I was making was, if you're going to call that a foul, how do you not call the other one a foul? It's the same minor infraction situation. In my opinion, none of them are fouls. If it was me personally, none of them are fouls. But once you set that precedent and you call that a foul, how on earth can you not describe the other one as a foul as well?
Yeah, and I think Christina, it's a great point. I think Christina nailed it there when she said none of those fouls, even if you think they are or not, like you say, they're right on the line. The fouls that are in the build-up to a goal need to be much clearer if they're going to rule out a goal, especially if they're happening in the defensive half. Her
argument that's saying if it's a yellow or red card, then that elevates it. I think I think that should be the law.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where and neither one of those, in my opinion, elevate to a yellow or red card. Yeah. So neither one of them should have been called, in my opinion.
Okay, I'm sure it won't be the last of us seeing Christina and seeing her explain all sorts of decisions as we enter the final stages of this tournament and the decisions become more important. Right, plenty still to come. We're going to be looking back on Morocco's exit from the tournament in just a moment and reflect on the performance of the African sides at this World Cup. This is the S Word, sponsored by Cauchy.
Yeah, boy. The S Word with Will Gavin and Master Tesfacion
from talkSPORT.
S Word,
featuring Will Gavin and Master Tess Fassian.
and a squad of big-name contributors
The S Word.
from talkSPORT.
Hello, this is the S Word on the talkSPORT YouTube channel and the S Word YouTube channel. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm Ollie Klink. Alongside me is Master Tess Fassian live from Los Angeles. There's plenty still to come on the show for you. We're going to be building up to England's game against Norway. Master has been practicing the Norwegian row. I can't wait to see it. But also we'll be talking about whether our very own Spartan, our Blythe Spartan, should be there to take on the Vikings. Dan Burn, the great Dan Burn, the Angel of the North. Should he be starting in that game?
Chest presses instead of rowing.
Given his record against Erling Haaland, we'll get stuck into that. Also, we will be chatting about Newcastle, who do look like they are in big trouble, which is difficult for me as a Newcastle fan. Their captain Bruno Guimaraes heavily linked with Arsenal, but will he end up going to the Premier League champions? So much on the way then. The former Newcastle defender Warren Barton will be joining us to have a look at that. But first, after an incredible tournament, it's all over for Morocco.
But at the end of the day, the scoreline was level. Great display from both. It's finished in New York, New Jersey. Brazil 1, Morocco 1. Gets played in from the corner, drops down. There's the chance, deflected and in. Little spout from Soufiane Brahimi, and he gets his goal in this World Cup, and he sends Morocco into the lead.
He scores this, Morocco are through. Saibari up against Verbruggen, right-footed, finds the bottom corner, and Morocco move through to the round of 16. Here come Morocco again. Brahim Diaz, he's got players to his left and right. Brahimi! There it is! To settle it, Soufiane Brahimi sends Morocco through to the quarterfinals.
Dembele charging on and finding the net. It's beyond Bordeaux. It's 2 for France, and they are soaring into the semi-final.
Yeah, end of the road for Morocco. Delighted to say joining us now to look back on that is Mbizo Mzaman, African football expert. How are you doing, Mbizo?
Very well, thank you, gentlemen. Thanks for having me. Last time I had a bit of a mix-up with my tech, but I'm back, I'm ready.
Here he is.
You're looking good in HD, looking clean, my man. Got the hair done, everything, got the shirt out, got the button unbuttoned. I see you.
I'm glad you sorted out the text here in HD. You look fantastic, Mbizo. Let's talk about Morocco firstly. Look, I think a very good tournament, and we can reflect on that. But just in that game against France, 0 shots in the first half. Was there an element, do you think, where they maybe showed the French a bit too much respect?
Yeah, that's absolutely what I would say. I think that, it's obvious how much firepower, that the French have. And I think an element of the strategy that Morocco had in their approach was to take a little bit of sting out of the game, a little bit of the pace out of the game, because when the game gets back and forth, when it gets into third, fourth gear, I think there's few people in the world who are better than the French. And I think it was, both an offensive strategy, maybe to a certain extent, try to be patient and break the French down. But also, I think it was really a defensive strategy. If the French don't have the ball, they can't penetrate. If Mbappe doesn't get the ball, he can't continue his historic run. I think it backfired in the end, because you really do need to get a few shots on goal to win the game. But perhaps they were looking at penalties. I'm not sure. 0-0 would have sufficed, and I think they would have felt like they have the better shot stopper, certainly the better penalty kick specialist. So perhaps that was the approach, but it was in the end a rather easy stroll in the park for the French.
Yeah, it was very much similar to, I guess, the 2022 approach with the low block and, really suffocating these bigger nations. But we've kind of seen Morocco grow out of that and becoming more on the front foot, more attacking. But when you lose Ezazuli before the tournament, when you lose Saibari going into this match, and they really have not had a quality striker leading them up top, it feels like some of the talent from an attacking perspective, they've got some youngsters coming up. I'm not questioning it at all. But in this transitional phase that they're in with some of the 2022 key components of their team and some of these youngsters that are coming up on the rise with the growth and development and the investment within the diaspora, it just felt like they were maybe a piece or two missing to continue playing that style of play.
Yeah, absolutely, Master. I mean, I think that there's an element of that, but I think there's also an element of realism. I mean, of course, Morocco is a top quality team, but again, the French just have an extra level. They just have another level that I think no one else in world football can currently match. And I think that's what we saw. I think we saw a Morocco team that respected, rightfully so, a French team that has just too many weapons and just an incredible defense. I mean, for me, for example, Upamecano was just on another level. He's so difficult to get by, whether you're trying to pass around him, beat him for pace, dribble. Saliba just won the Premier League with Arsenal as being one of their best players. They're just absolutely solid in every department. Rabiot, I'm not a huge fan of Rabiot's football, but he had a good game. So that midfield as well is so solid. The attack is so solid. It's difficult to really try to match them like for like. And of course, you saw how they played against the Dutch, where they did, assume the position of protagonists. They did have most of the ball. They did show their quality and their depth. But I think it was unrealistic for us really to believe that they could match the French like for like. I still think they could have won the game with a little bit more courage, perhaps a little bit more enterprise and adventure. But I don't think they can be too disappointed. A quarterfinal this time around, semifinal last time around. I think that's a demonstration of the level that they're on. And really, I think it reflects positively on all of African football, because as I've seen a couple of my friends joke, Morocco has done so spectacularly in the world tournament, but in AFCON, they could lose to Uganda 1-0 in an opening match. So, this is African football on display.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I think Morocco in particular, what a tough run they had to get to where they got to anyway. Very difficult group. They brought the game to Brazil. I think arguably should have won that game. They knocked the Netherlands out. They come up against France. You can't really ask much more of them, can you? How, though, would you sum up the rest of the African teams at this tournament? Because I think we've had some magical stories, of course, the likes of Cape Verde. I think you could probably put DR Congo in. They took England, right to the edge. How would you sum up the performance of all the African sides at the World Cup?
I'd say promising but disappointing. I think we all expected to have a few more teams at this level. For me, yes, I know Norway has gone on a wonderful run, and I'm actually quite impressed with what they've done. I like a couple of their players. But I think Ivory Coast could have beaten them. I think Senegal could have beaten them. Senegal absolutely should have beaten Belgium, and I believe that Egypt could have held on against the Argentines. So we're disappointed, but we're hopeful, and we're proud of the fact that African football has demonstrated that they belong on the world stage. Some other big teams have exited as well. Germany is gone, Netherlands is gone. So top quality teams have also exited this tournament, which shows that it's a difficult tournament to advance in. We've seen a lot of wonderful surprises, but again, when we say to people that AFCON is an important tournament and that it's difficult to win, and that qualifying out of Africa for the World Cup is an incredibly difficult mission, not because of the football that you play, not just because of the football that you play in the pitch, rather, but also because of all these socioeconomic, infrastructural, cultural issues that happen off the pitch as well. So what's happened is we've earned certain types of respect that we should have had all along, but we are still disappointed. Those of us who watch African football consistently absolutely believe that many of our teams should have done a bit better. We are not particularly surprised by Cabo Verde's performance. Yes, maybe by how far they got, but not the way that they positioned themselves on the field, their fearlessness, and so on and so forth. So I think what it's showing is that, for example, AFCON next year is going to be absolutely lit. If you're not watching AFCON, what are you doing? Because African football is spectacular to watch, and it is, yes, in essence, different from European football. It is, yes, in essence, different from South American football, and it was important to show that those differences aren't a problem, but rather they're enriching.
And these next 4 years are going to be so crucial for African football. As you mentioned, AFCON moving from the winter to the summer, and you've also got the addition of African Nations League as well, which presents more opportunities for international competitions and more competitive matches among the African nations, similar to obviously what we've seen with other nations leagues created by other confederations. How crucial are these next 4 years going to be when we see, again, all of these nations that performed and participated in this tournament that made it to the knockouts? competing, fighting, but those final few minutes, whether it's coaching, tactical, the depth, exhaustion, just not even able to get it over the line. What do we need to see over these next 4 years with all of these new changes coming in to play with the infrastructure? So that way in 2030, we do see that expectations you said of multiple teams making it to the quarterfinals and maybe even a team lifting it up and winning the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely, Master. I think self-belief is key, and again, that's why this tournament was important for Africans to create the self-belief of what is possible. There is no reason to be fearful, respectful, of course, but to be fearful, there is no reason for that. And I think what the federations need to begin to do is make this coordinated and deliberate push to make people understand that the pinnacle of football is your national team. It's wonderful to have a few great clubs, for example, with South Africa, with Sundowns being at the pinnacle of the African game. But how does that translate to the national team? I think what we need to have is this coordinated effort from the federations, the coaches, the owners of the clubs, the scouts, the players. I mean, it has to be this wholesale coordinated effort to say, what is the goal? What is the principal goal that we want to have? And for me, that goal should be to have an African team win the World Cup. We are not far off. We are not as far off as many people would like to make it seem. I mean, even in this tournament, 1 or 2 victories, we are talking about something completely different. With all due respect to my American viewers, if Senegal beats Belgium, there's a good chance they get past the USA. So I think you're looking at just these, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. South Africa was the same thing against Canada. I think we could have won that game with a little bit more enterprise and courage. So I think for me, we need to say to ourselves, this is the point. The point is the national team. Like Germany did after their defeat in 2002. They completely re-engineered their football and not necessarily thinking about the next tournament, but for 8 years forward. I think Brazil, for example, needs to do the same thing, different beast altogether. But that should be the goal. We need to together be looking at winning this World Cup with fearlessness, with courage, but also with deliberate coordination so that these players, these teams, these coaches are getting to the pinnacle that they need to get to, and we don't see these losses anymore in the last couple of minutes of the game, and we see more African teams progressing because mathematically, more numbers means more opportunities.
And Mbizo, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. I do think you win Best Dressed Guest ever on the S Word too.
100%,
Fantastic
no
stuff.
doubt about it.
Look at that.
Looking fly.
Look at that,
Looking
Trick.
fly.
Unbelievable.
You see how this man dressed during Carnival, bro. You see how this man dressed during Carnival, man. He can put on a fit, I'll tell you that much.
Mbizo, thank you so much.
Appreciate you, Jess.
Really enjoyed your time. Thank you so much. Mbizo Mzamani there, African football expert. Right,
Mbizo Zamane.
Zamane. Sorry, my friend.
Zamane.
Sorry, perfect.
Zamane.
All right, plenty still to come then for you. We're going to be chatting about England in just a moment and whether Dan Burn should start against Norway to deal with Erling Haaland, the brilliant Dan Burn, of course. And we'll chat about Newcastle too, because they are.
Look at the giddy in your voice. We got a Newcastle segment
it's the only bit of hope I've got at the moment as a Newcastle fan is Dan Burn performing
what do you
this
mean?
World Cup.
We'll talk. I'll pour. We just talked about an African chat. I'll pour in some hope and optimism into you as to why you should be optimistic about the moves Newcastle's making.
Yeah, all right, mate. No worries. This is the S Word here, sponsored by Kalshi.
Bringing all the biggest football debates
Stateside.
The S Word
From talkSPORT. cuss words here. Just 2 hours of full-on football dialogue.
Every day.
talkSPORT presents
The S Word.
Hello, this is the S Word on the talkSPORT YouTube channel with me, Ollie Klink. I'm alongside Master Tesfazian live from Los Angeles. Plenty for us still to get into. We will talk about Newcastle. I've just pushed it right to the back of the show as a Newcastle fan. Just Bruno to Arsenal. Yeah,
saving the best for last.
Talk about last 2 minutes.
Saving the best for last, right?
Last 2 minutes. To put me in a better mood, we're going to talk about England because they face Norway on Saturday. Very much looking forward to that game, the quarter-final. Will they make it through all the way to the semis? Master, during the S Word, throughout this World Cup, you've had your say quite a lot on England and your very own
What have I said about England?
You said that they wouldn't get as far as the US at this World Cup. So, our voice of live football, Adrian Durham, joined the show yesterday, and here's what he had to say to you.
Let me keep it brief, and this is just for you, Master. If Christian Pulisic is your legend, if he's your icon, you never had any chance of doing anything special and anything better than England at this World Cup. Stick to NFL.
Oh, US tears. It's lovely. Yeah. Any message for Adrian?
He was not my legend, so I can't speak on that behalf. I've always felt like Weston McKennie was the best player on this team. You know, credit to the career domestically that Christian Pulisic has had, but I have been very critical of his performances and the times in which he does show up or doesn't show up for the U.S. men's national team, and the simple fact that people have tried to throw this Captain America label on him, the captain armband on him, and these are things that, quite honestly, he's not comfortable with. And so there's a reason why I've been more comfortable seeing Tyler Adams with the armband and other people stepping up and being the leaders of the team. He's still a talented player. I'm not going to dismiss that at all, and he has displayed that talent, whether at Chelsea or AC Milan at times when he has been healthy. But I completely agree with Durham. I'm not disputing that. I think US soccer has done a disservice to this team, centering everything around him, because he is someone, whether he's uncomfortable with it or unfit with it, of dealing with the pressures and the challenges that come with being the face of US soccer. And so that is a huge question we have going into 2030 is what do we do now? Because whether it is the pressure that Christian Pulisic feels as being the face, or the simple fact that his inability to stay fit, it is a massive problem that has reared its ugly head once again.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you've had your say on England too. You thought they'd struggle with the heat. You thought that they would struggle at the Azteca with the altitude and all of that kind of stuff. I'm not even doing that as a dig. What do you now make of them, given that they have managed to get through that? Given that really we haven't really talked about the heat so much. The altitude was talked about a lot, but then after that game in Mexico, my favourite interview was with Declan Rice, where they went, and how about the altitude? And he went, yeah, I didn't really notice it, to be honest, which I thought was great. Has your opinion changed a lot on England as this tournament's gone on?
I mean, Ollie, let's be honest. I came in, who was the beacon of hope while you guys are crying about the 26-man roster and Thomas Tuchel being a double agent? Who was the one that was giving you guys hope and optimism and saying, stick with the plan? That was me. That is me. Let's not forget here who was the person who was guiding you and showing you guys the light as you guys are having an absolute meltdown in May, thinking it's all absolutely over because frickin' Cole Palmer's not on the roster and Phil Foden, who've shown absolutely nothing in domestic play to deserve to be on this roster, and you guys have been crying about it this whole time. Now it's roses and petals, and you got Ed Sheeran singing lullabies to the England national team. Like it's more so. You guys are questioning me. I'm questioning y'all.
I will drink a bucket of your tears.
This was. All of a sudden, you guys are hopeful and optimistic, as you should be. You beat Mexico at Estadio Azteca. I understand the hope, the optimism, the joy, the belief that it's coming home that has galvanized the entire country of being able to overcome such a massive challenge in a massive knockout match. Kudos to you guys. I completely understand that. But credit to Thomas Tuchel, credit to the players. There is a belief and understanding that I've had on this team. Of course, as an American, I'm going to back my boys, as I always do, delusionally or undelusionally. I'm always going to do that, and I'm always going to root for England's demise. So I'm hoping for that. We need to get Bukayo Saka some rest. We got to get Declan Rice some rest. We got to get Noni Madueke some rest. We got to get these guys ready to go for the Premier League season, my boy.
By the way, if England do go out, I will blame Ed Sheeran. It will be Ed Sheeran's fault. I'm sorry.
You didn't enjoy that? You didn't enjoy.
I enjoyed the reactions. What's quite funny when it comes to John Stones' face, and he's like, "What?
What is going on?" And hey, do you feel, is that a good omen? Where all of a sudden now, the Peter Crouch thing, I thoroughly enjoyed.
Brilliant.
I understood that was a beautiful moment.
That was him getting his legacy cap, wasn't it?
Him getting his legacy cap. Harry Kane surprising with that, and him, you could tell he loves his team. He's a huge fan, and obviously what he's accomplished with England as well speaks for itself. But I thought that was a beautiful moment of someone that has been with the team, has played for the team, getting a well-deserved recognition, a mutual respect that you can see there. But when you got Ed Sheeran coming in now, do you feel like it's a bit much now? Where it almost, you know what it reminds me of? When the U.S. men's national team and Pochettino were doing the first pitch with the Mariners game leading up to Belgium, and all of a sudden you're just like, the vibes are too good right now. It's veering away from the performances on the pitch, and now it's all the other extras and additives that come with the success, and that's kind of the sentiment I got when I saw the Ed Sheeran clip.
Yeah,
I don't know about you.
Potentially. I just want to go back to that point you made about the Arsenal players in this squad, and if we look further beyond this tournament, no matter how far England get, actually, but let's say they make it to the semis or maybe to the final, there are a lot of those Arsenal boys that will have played a lot of football and are carrying serious injury issues, especially with Declan Rice, who's a doubt for this game. He's got hamstring issues that during this tournament he has said that he's been carrying for about 6 months. They are giving their absolute all for club and country, which I absolutely love about these players, but there's a limit, right? And how much does it worry you as an Arsenal supporter, the amount that these key players for Mikel Arteta's side are running themselves into the ground? Is there even an argument to say, Master, that because of how much injuries could impact Arsenal next season, that they're not the favourites for the Premier League title?
I think there's absolutely cases to be made for that. It goes beyond just not only Declan Rice, what his availability would be at the start of the season with the neural pain that he's dealing with. The only thing that can help is rest, and he hasn't been able to find rest. Bukayo Saka, similar thing with his Achilles situation, how he's been able to power through that and is now starting for England due to the simple fact that they desperately need him. But even if you look at France, William Saliba needs surgery after the tournament. And France, they don't look like they're making it to semifinals right now. They look like a team poised to make it to the finals. You're going to be looking at 3 of your key starting 11 players that could be out for the start of the season. With Saliba's situation, could be till October, and who knows with Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka. These are huge concerns. And for a team, of course, that hasn't been active in the summer transfer window at this point, what is the plan to help alleviate some of those pressures and burdens from this team? And if we're seeing how Andrea Berta is moving right now and being very frugal in the fact, and we haven't seen the signings that would suggest that there's going to be players that are going to be able to step in and fill in immediately when the Premier League season starts. There's a side of me that's wondering if the Premier League may not be the priority next season, and it may be more focused towards the Champions League, knowing that you can make it out of the group stage and have everyone ready to go at the start of the turn of the calendar year, and focus in on the knockouts there and try to capture your first ever Champions League trophy after coming, unfortunately, so close against PSG and losing in penalties. Maybe that is the approach, but it still makes me uncomfortable as someone that wants to win everything, coming off of a season where you won the Premier League, you want to go back-to-back. It is a concern. And we haven't even talked about the players in Spain, who I know haven't been playing much, but Mikel Merino, Zubamendi, David Raya, they're still along. They're not going to be available for preseason as well, as everyone's going to need that mandatory 3-week break. So there's going to be a lot of guys that are going to be missing for the preseason and for the Community Shield. And we'll see how Arsenal is able to make up for that. But it absolutely is a concern, and that's why I need England to lose.
Yeah.
Bring your lunch, bring your dinner.
Yeah, Gabriel's back, mate. Don't worry, he can do some penalty practice in pre-season. But
you would kill for Gabriel in that back line. Let's be honest here. You would kill for Gabriel in Newcastle.
Mate, got Dan Burman. Don't
worry. We're going to bring the other Brazilian. We're going to bring the other Brazilian to North London. Don't you worry.
We'll come on to that a bit later. But just going back to Declan Rice, I mean, Tuchel was talking about the fact that Rice is playing through incredible pain. You know, Rice himself has referenced it himself.
How does that make you feel, though, for yourself? Though, to see Declan Rice dealing with the neural pain, playing through it, playing at right back, giving it everything he has, giving performances that could be deserving of man of the match if it wasn't for Jude Bellingham. How does that make you feel, supporting this team, supporting Three Lions, and seeing someone like that giving it their all?
Do you know what, Master? There's been so much to be proud of as an England fan, especially during the Southgate era, of these teams being proud of wearing that badge again, which we didn't see much growing up. You know, I'm 30, so you saw a lot of players who I think put club before country, and they've admitted that now. And there was tensions in the camp, and there was poor managerial appointments, poor squads, etc. But I think that performance against Mexico, when it was backs to the wall, when you had that wonder-wall defensive line, I have never been more proud of a group of England players. And you're right to point out the fact that there are players out on that pitch who have had incredibly long club seasons, playing through pain, playing for spirit, playing for pride, playing for their country in a way that we're not used to seeing until recently. But like I say, I think that's why I put it down as the best England performance of all time, certainly in my lifetime, because it wasn't just about the way they played, it was the spirit and the heart that they put into it too. So yeah, I couldn't be more proud of them, and that's why I'm starting to believe quite a lot. But seriously, does
that change your sentiment though? Does that change your sense if, for whatever reason, again, this is not me being a wind-up merchant, if England loses to Norway and doesn't make it to the semi, does your sentiment change at all in terms of how you felt about that game and how you feel about this team?
Yeah, do you know what? I really hope that win is remembered in the right way, because if England, let's say, go out to Norway, or they go out in the semi-finals, everyone will probably look back on it and go, well, yeah, they won at the Azteca, but they didn't go all the way again. You know, once again, they got knocked out, etc. But I think there have been certain games, certainly recently. You know, you think about beating Germany in the Euros and breaking that curse, and beating Colombia on penalties. And I think those games and those moments are remembered in the right way as seminal England moments where they did the unexpected. And I hope that is similar with this win at the Azteca, especially because they were down to 10 men for so much of that game and overcame the odds and just put in a performance that, let's be honest, we're not really used to seeing from an England side. So yeah, it's a good point that I don't think it will be remembered, you know, in the same way as if we win the whole thing. Of course it won't. But I hope it is remembered in the right way, because of the spirit and the effort that the boys showed out there.
I'll flip this around, because it's something we're dealing with right now in the United States, because it was a good run. In getting 3 World Cup wins, winning the group stage, having a knocked out victory. Like, if you look at it from a totality and what was expected, if everyone at the start of the tournament would have said they're going to win the group, they're going to win a knockout match, and then crash out in the round of 16, everyone would be like, okay, they've met our expectations and they met the level that we would expect from them. That's a good tournament. But the simple fact of the way they went out against Belgium, the fight that they put up, it's kind of left a questionable taste in a lot of people's mouths, of people asking to the point whether this was successful. And some people feeling like this wasn't a success as a result of that they should have done better, that they're looking at a Belgium side that people still feel like they should have beat. That I'm curious if that sentiment could be the same for England, where they feel like on paper they should beat this Norwegian side. And if that doesn't come to fruition, will England be caught up in the same situation that a lot of Americans are right now, where despite the fact that there was record viewership audience, once again, over 50 million people watched this match in the United States, the largest non-NFL telecast since the 1994 Winter Olympics, that all eyes and the galvanizing and the sport growing, all of that has come to fruition, and people are still questioning if the sport is still a thing here. You know, I'm curious from your vantage point of if there will be a similar situation in that. I'm very curious by that, just because that's kind of what we're dealing with right now.
Yeah.
As we're dealing with the aftermath of USA Belgium.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It's the manner in which you go out. And I think a good example with England is one of my favourite ever England wins is when they beat Wales at the 2016 Euros in the final minute. You know, Wales, one of our neighbours, and it was a stressful watch as an England fan. But we managed to win that game, last minute winner. Whole country's absolutely loving it. But then we go out to Iceland. So no one remembers that win in the same way at all because ultimately you went out to Iceland. If England lost 4-0 to Norway, no one is going to remember that Mexico game in the same way. So it is about the manner of the defeat as well and the stage in which you go out. Of course it is. But I think it's probably at the moment more important for the US, for the growth of the game in terms of how this tournament is remembered than it is for England because one, until recently, we're fairly used to failure anyway, and two,
so are we. Don't worry, we are too.
It's so true. I do want to stick on this Rice point just very quickly. Do you think that there's any element where Mikel Arteta should take a bit of the blame when it comes to the fitness level and the injury issues that Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice have to deal with at the moment?
I mean, I think the club has. If you look at some of the moves that they made this summer, I think they've pretty much gone with the new training staff and new medical staff. That all the injuries that they've had to deal with all throughout the course of the season, despite this past summer, signing depth was the huge thing, and even some of that depth was being questioned and challenged going into the run-in. It's a huge, massive problem that the club is trying to solve this summer, and they've made a bunch of changes to try and resolve that manner, but. I mean, let's be honest. If you want to blame Mikel Arteta, Thomas Tuchel's dealing with the same problem. How do you keep Declan Rice off? And Declan Rice is not someone that's going to want to come off the pitch. He's dealing with literally unbearable pain right now, a neural injury that he's dealing with that is, as Thomas Tuchel described, has been incredibly difficult and painful to deal with. And yet he's still starting and putting in an entire shift in the Estadio Azteca in Mexico. Just mentally speaking, that's just his mindset, is that he sees this as an opportunity. He's not going to let this pass away, and he's going to do everything he can unselfishly for his club and country. And you can't help but commend that. How can you tell a player to come off the pitch if he's not willing to do so, if he's literally willing to sacrifice his own body to do so? You just have to tip your hat to him and trust the player and allow him to do what he feels is best for himself.
But should the medical staff and the club have more of an understanding?
But that's the thing. That's why they're going through this process right now. That's why they've been cleaning house on that perspective, is that how can they keep these guys fresher? How can they keep these guys healthier? How can they keep these guys more fit? One of the biggest stories going into the run-in was Arteta's brutal training that he's had, and it got to the point where Aberiche Eze kind of had a conversation with him, according to some of the reports that came out after they won the Premier League title, and just asking for just some more downtime and lighter training sessions, and that seemed to make the difference where guys felt fresher going into the run-in and benefited from the fact that the schedule was obviously the schedule overload that they were dealing with started to lighten up a bit. So these are huge concerns, but again, it's not just going to be on Arteta. Like Jude Bellingham, very similar situation where he delayed a soldier surgery that he had to deal with Real Madrid just so he can play in the Euros for England, and people thought that all of a sudden he wasn't world class because he was playing through a shoulder injury and worked his way back coming out of that and needed to get back to fitness. And people were questioning whether he was still the same Jude Bellingham, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But you can't question the heart of these players. And if anything, it's admirable to see, as an American that just saw a very cowardly performance from the USA against Belgium, seeing guys that are willing to risk everything they can and sacrifice everything they can for their nation. It is truly admirable, and I hope it's something that we can see more of from the USA, where we're seeing Christian Pulisic coming off the pitch at any sort of slight inconvenience, where Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham wouldn't even think of such a thing. So, as much as I would love to knock it, I admire it, because I would hope that the USA, and there are players who do that. I'm not knocking the entire team, but I would hope to see more of that from our star players.
Yeah, absolutely. And those England players taking all of that heart, all of that spirit into that game against Norway. That semi-final will be live on talkSPORT. We're going to get stuck into some of the selection issues for England in just a moment, because big Geordie Dan Burn could start against Erling Haaland, who has got a terrific record against. We'll get stuck into that and more on Newcastle, who are an absolute mess at the moment. Could their captain Bruno Guimaraes be leaving to help Declan Rice out a bit and off to the Premier League champions Arsenal?
What a
We'll be
guy.
joined by the former Newcastle fullback Warren Barton in just a moment. This is the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi.
Oh, look, football. The daily deep dive into the world of football.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
It's the show for people who love football in North America. And I mean the proper kind, where you only use your feet.
The S Word
from talkSPORT.
Hello, this is the S Word on the talkSPORT YouTube channel. We are sponsored by Kalshi. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm Ollie Clink. I'm alongside Master Tesfatian live from LA. It's time to talk about my Newcastle United.
Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, a little woosah, you know. Prepare yourself for this. It's not all bad. It's not all bad.
Do you know what? Do you know what's so annoying? Honestly, I watched England in the early hours of Monday morning here, up till 5 a.m, and it felt amazing. Honestly, it felt amazing. The whole nation was still awake, and you know, it all stayed up till 5 watching the football, and it feels a bit naughty, and you fall in love with football completely again with that performance from England and the pride you have in them. And I was on cloud nine, and I was like, yeah, we're in the quarterfinals, and we've got a chance of winning this whole thing. Gets to Wednesday, Newcastle could be selling their captain following two huge departures, and I hate football again, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, look, Bruno Guimaraes is asked to leave Newcastle United. Arsenal are accelerating their interest in Newcastle's captain. They actually had looked into signing Tonali, but he's joined Tottenham instead for around 100 million. Oh, we've also lost Anthony Gordon, who's gone to Barcelona for 70 million. The former, well, this is the thing. We'll get into it in a minute. But the former England captain and ex-Newcastle fullback Stuart Pearce joined Andy Goldstein and Darren Bent for Drive in Miami yesterday and was asked if he's worried for Newcastle fans.
Very much so. I think I had a feeling that they were just on the cusp of going on to challenge the big boys, and that seems to have dropped away badly. I like Eddie, love Eddie as a manager, I've got to say. But they're losing players now. The takeover of the club, you thought the financial investment might be good for them as well. But the fan base up there, having played for them, they're just incredible.
It's like a religion up there, right?
It is.
It's either Sunderland or Newcastle.
Yeah, take your pick.
Yeah, you're right, Stuart. You're right. I'm just feeling so bereft of hope, I think, at the moment as a Newcastle fan. Look, to be honest, you could kind of deal with Gordon and Tonali because I think they were two players that were pretty cool customers. Gordon had his head turned by Liverpool a couple of years ago. He's been quite open about that. He goes for 70 million. It's good business. I'm sorry, but it's good business. He wasn't very consistent for us last season. We signed him for 40 million. You're getting a 30 million profit on him and you're saying thank you very much and we move on. Sandro Tonali, it's good business. 100 million
Great business.
for Sandro
Great
Tonali.
business.
He's not a consistent player. He had one fantastic season. It stings a bit for two reasons. Firstly, he had his betting ban and the club stood by him. So you maybe expect a bit more loyalty. But, I mean, that went out the window as soon as Alexander Isak left. So, you know, you're not going to get burnt twice by that. The reason it stings the most is that he's gone to Tottenham Hotspur, who finished 17th twice. They were in a relegation battle last season. Like, come on, man. And that is a real... That really hurts, I think, as a Newcastle fan. But at the same time, you kind of take the 100 million. If Bruno goes as well, it's devastation, but also, Master, really worrying. Really worrying. That is the core of this squad, completely ripped out. We're at square one once again. I could sit here all afternoon and complain about PSR and the rules and how they're all skewed towards the big six clubs and they're all skewed towards keeping those clubs in check and at the top of the league, no matter how much they want to fail, no matter how many bad signings they make. No, it's fine. You'll be okay. And Newcastle have one bad summer and they're back to square one completely. I mean, Eddie Howe must be tearing his hair out at all of this. There is an element where you could sit there and say, could the club be doing more to actually try and keep these players? To invest in this project, to give Bruno Guimaraes a new contract? Maybe they could. But at the same time, the rules have hit them so hard that once again, they find themselves in this difficult situation. Look, they have made a couple of signings already, youngsters. You know, Sean Sturr coming in from Ajax. They've got a new goalkeeper, Yuan Juan. They're both ones for the future. You then got Toure coming in, who looks like an exciting winger. It looks exciting, but again, he's a raw talent, isn't he? And Manzambi, look, I'm not even going to talk about Manzambi unless I see him holding or wearing a black and white shirt, because the incomings have been such a frustration. The amount of times Newcastle have been hijacked so far, I'm just sick of it. They've been a stalking horse for so long, and then other clubs swoop in and take deals that they've been working on for a long time. As soon as I heard the words Manzambi is Newcastle's top target, I honestly want the floor to eat me up, because I know what's coming usually, and the way that Manzambi has shone at this World Cup doesn't really help, to be honest. I bet you there are a few of the officials up at Newcastle going, why did he have to score again for Switzerland? Because they know that other clubs will be watching.
He's been the young best player of the tournament. If you're able to go in this transfer window and get 70 million for Anthony Gordon, 100 million for Tonali, and who knows what this number is going to be for Bruno, which again, the personal terms have been agreed to with Arsenal and Bruno, but there hasn't been contact between Arsenal and the club yet. And as concerned as you can be, we've seen Andrea Berta talk to everyone and flirt with everyone at the ball and walk away, you know, desperately looking for players at the end of the summer transfer window. So I wouldn't be as pessimistic as you are right now. There's still a lot of work to be done in terms of negotiating whatever that fee is, but anywhere from 60 to 90 million there. And if you're the recruiting that you're doing right now, Torre, I think is going to be, again, yes, he's raw. What he did at Hoffenheim was incredibly impressive. I've been very high on this player for quite some time now, and I think that's someone that's going to be a gem that you're going to enjoy, that's going to grow and evolve in that position. It'll be very dynamic, a very dynamic winger that has the potential to play on both sides as well. If you get Manzami as well, that is two really good targets that you're recruiting that are very young, that you can build, that you can develop, and you can build and retain your new core from. My question for you is, why are you so attached to this core? What like from last season? What is you just talked about the inconsistency from Tonali. You talked about Anthony Gordon. You're okay with moving on from him. Bruno Guimaraes. I mean, what the injuries that he dealt with when you guys didn't have him, obviously, clearly it was a huge gaping hole, and then he came back at the end of the season and performed better. But his absence clearly played a huge part in that. Like, what is the attachment here?
Because even if they're inconsistent, they are our best players. You can't argue with that, even if they're inconsistent. And also, to be fair to me, I said I was all right with Gordon going. I was all right with Tonali going. It's Bruno that I'm scared of. Because if you look at our record under Eddie Howe without Bruno Guimaraes in the side, it's horrendous. It's actually horrendous, not just bad. I'm most worried, always have been, about him going. Not just because of what he brings as a player, but because for me, over this period, he's been the heartbeat of the club. He's been the captain. He's talked about how his kids are Geordies and that he loves this place and he loves playing for the club. And I completely believe that. And also, this is the thing, if he did move to Arsenal, I can't speak for every Newcastle fan, but I personally wouldn't begrudge him the move. And I'd understand it. He's turning 29. He's a good enough player to be playing in the Champions League regularly and competing for silverware. We even saw that at the World Cup. I thought he was, other than missing that penalty against Norway, probably Brazil's best player at the tournament. So I would understand it. And he, according to reports, is a bit worried about tarnishing his legacy with Newcastle. Like I say, I can't speak for every fan, but for me, you can't tarnish that legacy unless he's throwing his toys out the pram and does an Isak and doesn't train, doesn't play. But I wouldn't expect him to do that anyway. You know, this is a man that joined us when we were about to get relegated, kept us in the league, takes us to fourth, takes us to Champions League football again 2 seasons later, and lifts the League Cup, our first domestic trophy in 70 years. Come on, man. That is some legacy to tarnish, even if you do want to move to a different club. And the other thing is, Marcel, I do think that he'll have looked at Gordon leaving and Tonali leaving and even Isak the year before. And in a way, he's probably there saying, well, I'm the last one left. And actually, when I look at some of those players, I'm better than you. So why should I be the one that's stuck at Newcastle? So
you can hold this grudge all you want to Alex. You can hold the grudge all you want to Alexander Isak, and I'm sure a lot of Newcastle fans will.
Well, he's the first domino, though, isn't he? He's the first domino that's led to all this.
All you guys had to do was pay the man what he was asking for. Yeah. If you would have paid Alexander Isak the wages he was asking for, instead of going the cheap route and trying to undercut him and saying, we just gave you a contract extension the year before, what's the point of trying to pay you right now?
But Master, this all comes back to the rules. It all comes back to the rules. It all comes back to PSR. They couldn't offer that contract because of the wage restrictions, because of PSR. It's not as easy as just saying they should have done that. That was the same summer they had to sell Elliot Anderson. They had to sell Yankuba Minter.
That was the promise they made to Alexander Isak. That was the promise they made to Alexander Isak. And when you had all the influx and you had all the turnover up top, and all of a sudden those promises weren't kept, how could you fault Alexander Isak for feeling betrayed? And at the end of the day, that has opened up Pandora's box now, where because he wasn't paid, now everyone else is feeling the same sentiment. Why can't you accept it's to
do with the rules, though? It's to do with the rules.
It does have to do with the rule. I'm saying there's ways around.
You can
solve this. You can find the ways, and the rules have changed now. It's no longer. It's what SCR now. They're doing the scale. The SCR now. 80% of your revenue is what it's based off of instead of PSR. Yeah. So, and that's the thing.
Unless you're in Europe,
you're going to need more revenue.
Unless you're in Europe as well, there's UEFA restrictions that go beyond that.
But the UEFA restrictions is 70%. So in terms of UEFA, so is Newcastle in Europe? Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, they're not.
Then that's not a concern for you. That's not. Leave that to the big boys, okay? Leave that up to the big boys. You can spend up to 80%.
Leave it to the
of your revenue.
It's classic, isn't it? Leave it to the big boys. Great. What's the point in being a football fan right now? Especially if you support someone like Aston Villa, someone like Newcastle, someone like Nottingham Forest. What is the point?
There's hope for Sunderland. Look what Sunderland did.
But even them, is there? Is there really?
Yes.
Because eventually they'll come up with these restrictions. It's a vicious circle. It's a vicious circle where... And what I hate sometimes is when you get fans of Big Six clubs saying, well, if you increase your revenues, you'll be absolutely fine. How are you meant to do that without the success? You always find yourself
you're building a new
in a
stadium,
situation where you can't build. And
you're building a new stadium.
There's no point. There's no
new
point.
Stadium, new sponsorships, the Adidas sponsorship. It's going to come together. Look, the sun will shine. Don't worry about it, Ali. Newcastle will be there. Enjoy the era that you had, the success that you had. The players like Isak, the players like Tonali, the players like Bruno, they were able to give you a glory as you were able to lift the trophy and you were able to witness and bear the experience of seeing Newcastle in the Champions League once again. A great era. Now you got to restart, rebuild, refresh, and that's okay. Every team goes through that. Man City's going through that right now too.
Do you know what? To be fair, I'm kind of coming around to Newcastle potentially just signing a load of young talent and getting them out there and just seeing how it goes. It could be a very fun season. Could be very worrying.
That seems like the strategy. And you know what? That would be a fantastic approach to take, in my opinion.
Yeah, potentially. Just finally, before I let you go, Master, I do want your predictions for the rest of the quarterfinals. Can you just take me through what you think? You've got about 15 seconds.
I got Spain today against Belgium. I think finally Spain puts it all together from an attacking front. I expect a huge performance from Lamine Yamal. I mean, that's the focus of the game today. So I'll stick to that since we don't have enough time to discuss the other matches. But I got Spain winning this one, probably 3-1.
Okay, great stuff. Work on that row for the England-Norway game too. That's all from us today on the S Word. Thanks for watching. It's been a lot of fun, Master. It's been an absolute pleasure. As always, we'll be back at the same time tomorrow with plenty more where this came from. Don't forget to follow us on our socials at talkSPORT S Word. You've been watching the S Word, sponsored by Kalshi.
Around here, we only use the F word.
talkSPORT presents
the S Word.